Gabe, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too. And
Uh,
Heather, who I haven't seen in years now.
I know. This is awesome.
yeah, thanks for joining us, Heather.
You're a little more gray than last time I saw you.
Well, man, so my barber has literally been out of the country. He was out of the country for 6 weeks, and then the week that he came back, I went on vacation out of the country. And so I'm very excited because literally once we're done here, I'm getting in the car and going to get my hair cut.
Does, does your barber cut the grays out individually?
Yeah, he does
Yeah,
individually.
that's
That
nice.
that's why I'm bald. Yeah.
That's handy. Super handy.
Um, but it's just when it's shorter, it's harder to tell how gray it is. It's like that's the
Yeah. So you were out of the country for a week, Gabe? Was that
yeah. We went
family
to Belgium and uh, Denmark, but just Copenhagen. Uh,
vacation?
Fun or business or
fun, so
okay.
fun. So yeah, so we hadn't done like a big trip in a while. We'd taken a couple days here and there, but and then it coincidentally lined up with I started a new job this week, but I had booked that trip well ahead of that.
Mm.
Yeah, so we were in Brussels, and then we went to Bruges and Ghent, which are old medieval towns. And in Europe, the trains are nice, so you just jump on a train, and there you go. So that's good. We stayed at a zoo. Like, there's this huge zoo about an hour outside of Brussels. It
Is
was
that the
great.
Matt Damon movie? Is Matt
Uh,
Damon based on that?
it's funny. The Matt Damon movie was filmed
We bought
here.
a zoo.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
that was filmed in Boston. I don't know what that movie's about. I mean, I assume we bought a zoo, but like, no, it was not
That's
a. We
pretty much what it's about.
Yeah. Kind of a Hallmark movie mixed with zoology.
okay, sweet.
Yeah.
But the zoo was great. We stayed at the zoo.
Hmm.
So like when we opened up the windows in the morning, we saw down to the polar bears. So like that was awesome. So we got to see
Cool.
them like feed the polar bears in the morning.
Like what? Like crumbs from your breakfast? You just throw them
Mhm.
off the
Yeah, it
balcony?
was a little croissant or whatever. Sorry, croissant. Uh,
Huh.
yeah, they would actually throw them like lettuce mostly, and then I think they must be giving them the protein at other times, maybe for training.
When not everyone's watching.
Not everybody's watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're in Europe, I've never been to Europe. I hope to go sometime. Is it a requirement that you have to eat cold cuts for breakfast? I just remember that, like, being in the Indigo office and the Europeans are in town, and there'd be this like massive spread of like weirdness that I would never eat for
Hmm.
breakfast. So anyway, I'm curious about that.
Don't think it's a requirement. I, but it's definitely like it's not unusual for a large spread to have cold cuts. But you say cold cuts, I think I would think what we would think of as a charcuterie board. I feel like they generally have fancier cold cuts than we do.
Cheese and yeah, cured meats and
Yeah, stuff
Hmm.
like that. But they also had like eggs and sausage. Like sausage is huge
Mhm.
there. Like
Well, and a lot
so.
of people like smoke salmon, like bagels and lox, but like that always weirds me out. I could never eat that before 11 a.m.
Um, I didn't I'm trying to think if I saw any smoked fish before 11 a.m. Not that the salmon don't go on lox, but yeah, I don't think so. But there was like a lot of sausage. Like that was that, especially the closer you are to Germany, like you get a lot of sausage. It's great. It's delicious. Uh, so yeah.
Fed that to the polar bears.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I mean, so yeah. So that was good. I'm strong recommend. Heather, how old are your kids?
Oh, let's see. 9. You add a third one in there, and like I feel like I lose part of my short-term memory with every kid I have. So my girls are 9 and 7, and then we have a son now, who is 18 months already. So,
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah,
but
if you
we were
follow Heather
like
on
getting to a good
Facebook.
place where we could really travel, do more exciting things with our girls, and then we had another baby, and so we're back in the hurt locker, with that, but we'll get
I
there.
I distinctly remember. So we've only got two, and Kat was pregnant with the second one, and the older one had just started playing by themselves a little bit. And I like as I realized that, I think I said out loud, "Oh my God, what have we done?" Um, But and then we stopped at 2 because twins run in Cat's family. It's like we're not going to go 2 to 4. Like that's a massive logistical change that I'm
Yeah.
not prepared for. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
it. 2 and through. She's got tats on her knucks.
nice. The world's built for four, family of four. Everything's family of four. Once you hit five, it's trouble.
Yeah. And everybody starts asking when you're going to get a minivan, and the answer should always be never. But
Until you make the switch, Heather. Now I
you
can't.
do it.
Now we like don't need one anymore. So we were those people. We for sure were those people. And now we're like past it. Me and my wife drive around a minivan and our kids don't care about us anymore. So they're not with us, right? And it's hard to give up. It's just hard to give up.
Here it's real functional.
It's so functional. Like the door dings. That's the biggest thing. Like when you pull into a store and your 5-year-old just slams the door open into the next guy. Man, we just push the button. My kids don't even know how to open a door. So I have this old I have a 64 Corvair that we drive for fun. And just the other day, my 13-year-old gets out of the Corvair and just walks away and leaves the door wide open. Like I had to park it in the garage. I just let her out. I'm like, that's the world we live in. They don't even know that car doors need to be shut.
No, I mean, speaking of the world we live in, so having grade school age kids in 2025, the dings on my car are not from slamming them into other cars. It's from their Stanley water bottles that weigh
Oh,
20 pounds that they're swinging around off their backpacks and
yeah.
banging my car. So that's the issue I have right now, and a minivan's not going to help me with that.
My girls carried more water to school today than I drank in the year 1996. 100%. The whole calendar year.
It's so
Well,
true.
so he's got to be full of crap because I remember playing football. You guys must have had one of these. So like, so we didn't have water bottles, right, for football. Like,
Right.
so practice, what we had was they built, I don't know, like it took some 2x4s, and so there was this big rack, not like you had to lean over to put your head onto it, and then they had PVC pipe all around the top of it, and drilled a bunch of holes into it, and
Just
screwed in a hose, and that was where your water. But I mean, I drank a lot of water out of that PVC.
I agree. That's right. So I'll say during school hours. So from
Okay,
8 to 3.
yeah, very school,
Yeah, like
And
absolutely.
sports, whole other
yeah,
level.
that's different.
But like to be packing water on your person to school every day, like there's no water there. It's hilarious.
Exactly.
And my kids, which they're a little younger than Rodney's, but they don't know how to drink out of a water fountain. Most of the water fountains in their school are actually bottle fillers now. They're not like a your regular
Mm.
water fountain. But we were somewhere the hockey practice, I think, the other night, and Willow forgot her water. And I'm like, well, there's a water fountain, go drink out of it. And I'm like coaching her through how to drink out of this water. She's like trying to like fight.
Catch it.
It's all down the front of her. There's a puddle on the floor. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
uh, Ronnie, did I ever tell you about our bidet?
No. No.
Okay, so
Hasn't
I'm
come
going to start
up and
with
we haven't discussed the
I'm
days on the
I'm a
podcast.
strong recommend on the bidet, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'll fast forward to the end of the story and say like I, so there's two pieces of this, and you'll realize why I brought it up when I get to the second. But first is the funny one where we were remodeling a bathroom. Electrician's like, "Hey, do you guys want an outlet by the toilet?" And I was like, "Why would we want an outlet by the toilet?" He's like, "Well, a lot of people are putting them in for bidets and stuff." And I was like, "Kidding me?" And I
Yeah.
was like, "No, dude, we don't need an outlet." And I went downstairs and talked to my wife, and I was like, "Hey, just so you know, like they asked about this," and I told them no. And she's like, "You might want to rethink that answer." Because it wasn't something we had discussed. I don't know that she had thought about it, but clearly, as soon as she heard that this was a thing that we could do, it was a so one. So that was that. So I learned that we were in fact putting in a bidet, and so it was great. So fine, whatever. So I had to go through that whole process, which is also a shocking process because you can spend like $30 and you can spend literally $20,000 on a toilet seat. Like it's crazy.
That's crazy.
We went the lower end, but not like it's a so our bidet has a remote, uh, and you can change the water temperature. The
You got
seats
a heated
warm,
seat, heated
heated
seat too.
seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The kids complain when the heated seat, when I turn it off when summer comes around. Like, I'm like, guys, it's like 78 degrees out. I think we're okay with a cool seat in
Yeah.
this scenario. But talking about forgetting, the other thing it does is an auto flush. So you stand up and it
Oh,
flushes. So my kids don't flush toilets.
yeah. That's a
Like,
problem. That's a real
and it's like,
problem.
so we have two bathrooms in this house. So one of them has it, right? The upstairs one. So whenever they use the downstairs toilet, they always forget to flush
Hmm.
and, forget about it when we go other places. But anyway, if you don't have one, I'm a strong recommend. I was totally skeptical and was like, this is a ridiculous thing. This is crazy. Strong recommend. I won't go through all the reasons why.
Me
Strong
on the
recommend.
auto flush, honestly. I'm in this mom's Facebook group, and a few years ago I posted like, hey, who has tips for getting their kids to flush the toilet? And this thing like blew up. There were like 300 comments on this post. Not a single suggestion. Just everyone saying like, when you figure it out, please let me know, or just
Really?
empathizing with the situation. This is a worldwide problem, apparently, that no
Well,
one.
apparently. So where's bidet? Europe? Is that a European thing? Bidets?
It's a European word. It's French, yeah. But
But I mean,
but
like,
the best
where
ones
is
are
it common?
Japanese.
Japanese. All right.
Okay.
So we have a Toto bidet. They don't
Okay.
even pay us to advertise on here. Here I am shilling for their bidets.
Still waiting for that first
They're,
sponsor.
yeah, somebody might go look at their website. But I'm telling you guys, if there's a plug by your toilet, go check out, see if you can put a Toto bidet on that.
Yeah.
It's
So I've remodeled a few houses and I used to watch a lot of home improvement shows like back in the day. And I remember this guy, he was installing a bidet as part of the thing. It was like I didn't even know these were a thing at the time. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's super easy. It's like a 15-minute project. All you do is, put this on your seat and then plug it into the outlet that's next to your toilet." And I remember being like, "Who has an outlet next to their toilet? Like that's not a thing."
that's not, I still am not convinced that it is a thing other than
It
it's
defies
people.
all logic of water safety in the bathroom that I
Yeah,
was
it's
taught.
like under. Yeah, that's not good. That's
I
not
mean,
good at all.
yeah. There are other outlets in the bathroom, right? Like that got me there. But yeah, yes, it's proximity to shit, literally and figuratively.
So last bit on the toilet talk. When we did our last house, we did a soft close seats on all the toilets. Do you
Oh
guys have?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the problem with that is if you invite me to your house and you don't have soft close toilets, it sounds like your whole house is falling down. Like I literally, as I'm walking away, I just take the toilet bowl and just slam it down, It's a bad habit.
When I realized there were soft close toilet seats, I immediately changed. Yeah, I've done that in 3 places now. Like I don't know. This is such a non-event upgrade. How does everybody not have this?
Yeah, I
Um,
agree. It's cheap. It's no brainer.
yeah.
Heather Gieseke. I don't know. I didn't prep you much for this podcast. I don't know
I
if you.
really should have asked more questions.
Yeah. This is pretty much how it goes for the next hour or so. So Heather, I want to introduce Heather. Heather, I think Gabe and I have both worked with Heather at multiple companies. So I got to be on the Cargill team when Heather hired on as a trainee, right? You were a farm
Yeah,
marketer
right out of
trainee.
college.
That's right. I remember that's the first time I ever heard about B12. She taught us all about B12 back then to keep the energy levels up. And then more recently than that, we worked together at Indigo. So Heather, you're more on the sustainability side at Indigo. Is that right, Heather?
Well, I mean, I was there for 4 years. I'd say the first half was on the grain marketplace side, and the latter half was on the sustainability
Got
carbon
it.
side. So I kind of saw, and biologicals towards the end. So I'm probably one of the few people at Indigo that worked on or worked in all three of those areas.
Yeah, super
Yeah.
cool. And then most recently, just started a new company. I see it over your shoulder there, BounceAg. Excited to hear about that, Heather. I haven't. I've been following you on LinkedIn. I see your posts. I read your posts, but would love to hear more about what you got going on there as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's been fun.
Gabe, what's your experience with Heather? You guys cross paths for sure at
I
the
mean,
CRM side, right?
yeah. So my initial experience with Heather was as she was the trainee FM, right, and a farm marketer, and then eventually she joined our business, right, on the CRM side.
Oh,
Um,
I didn't know that. You
mhm.
were a CRM. All right.
Yeah, like I don't know, I was with CRM a couple years. So I started out as a trainee in Northern Illinois with you, Rodney, and then I took on my own territory for a year and a half, 2 years in Central Illinois, and then switched over to CRM.
Man, Gabe, I tried working with you forever and you hired Heather?
Heather, just so you know what he's referring to, I tried to hire that idiot like at least twice. And back then there was no remote, and the man refuses to leave Dwight.
Correct.
Uh,
And I
so
will say, like, that is the most I have traveled in my entire career was when I was with CRM. It was like 80% of the my time was on the road. I'd leave on Sunday night and get back on Friday. And I mean, I was a young professional at the time, newly married. We didn't have kids, so it worked. But ultimately, why I left Cargill was just I was ready to slow down on the travel, but learned a ton.
pretty reasonable.
And, like you're not traveling to amazing destinations. You're going to like, middle of nowhere, North Dakota or Nebraska, anywhere there's a grain elevator basically was where I was traveling. And awesome people. It was a really fun job. But man, if I rolled into a town and I could find a Hampton Inn and a Subway, I was like, living big. That was a big deal.
Yeah, and
I
you were probably driving, not flying, right? You were driving everywhere.
Yeah, for the most part, I was driving just because, most of those places there's nowhere
couldn't
convenient
fly.
to fly.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't. Right. Yeah.
I when I used to go to Missouri, right into like Sykeston, there was like some really small regional airport. So I'd fly into whatever and then get on literally a prop jet to fly into Sykeston. One time I flew into Decatur from Chicago.
Really?
Nice.
I forget why I was, but that was literally like being in the back of a van. Like it was the weirdest flight I've ever taken. Like it was like the pilot. I could touch the pilot's shoulder,
Yeah.
and like there was room for maybe four people in that plane.
Yeah.
I yeah. Anyway, some people were talking about a rural part of Pennsylvania the other day, and like, oh man, but there's like a pizza place, and oh, and I was like, guys, you're not scaring me with this. Like,
A pizza place. That sounds
yeah, I
fantastic.
was like, oh, okay.
Casey's? Was it Casey's?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably too far east to be a Casey's. Maybe it's a Sheets or something. I don't know. They probably would have been more excited about a Sheets.
We had a few weeks ago we had Catherine Glowinski on the podcast, Heather. I don't know if you cross paths with Catherine at Indigo, but I was in her area teaching people about kind of the Midwest, and she off the cuff asked me what the best pizza in Dwight was, and I said Casey's. And we just left it at that, and that was it, right? But like 2 days later, she followed up with me. She's like, "Hey, you buy your pizza from a gas station?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess it's a Midwest thing."
Yeah, it's good.
So good. Yeah.
Breakfast pizza? I mean, ugh, can't beat it. I went to Farm Progress Show last week and I was feeling the vibe. So I stopped at Casey's, got a slice of breakfast pizza, and bought a Powerball ticket. It just felt, it felt like the thing to do.
You got to do the combo. Yeah.
What'd you do at Farm Progress Show? Just walk around, or did you have something going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly just catching up with it's farm shows. It's really about networking, right? It's like everybody shows up and it's you're in one place, and that rarely happens in ag. And so you just kind of catch up with people, see what there is to see. I've been to, I don't know if you know this, the Farm Progress Show is actually the reason I ended up in agriculture. Like, that is the turning point in my career in ag because I didn't grow up on a farm. And anyway, I kind of
Well,
started
how did you
learning.
get to the first Farm Progress show then?
Well, great question. So, great question. Funny answer. So, I was the county fair queen in Macon County, Illinois. So, Decatur is part of Macon County. I grew up in a small town just outside of Decatur.
Hmm.
And so the county fair queen, and part of your job as the county fair queen is to support and represent different ag related things going on in your community. And that was the first year that the Farm Progress Show was held at that, what's now a permanent site in Decatur, Illinois. So it was a really big deal for the county. And so they had me kind of set up there serving as the, official hostess of the Farm Progress show. And they stuck me at the Growmark booth, and I think I was selling bracelets, like support the troops bracelets to raise money for that. And so I was there for, several hours one day selling bracelets with my tier on and just making conversation with these guys from Growmark that were working their booth. And to me, I mean, I grew up in a rural area, so I knew what farming looked like. But to me, agriculture was like just that. It was farming, and you had to be born into it, or it didn't seem like a career path because I just didn't have that awareness. And so that was, really when the ethanol boom really started to take off. And the guys at Growmark were teaching me all about ethanol and soy biodiesel and the whole grain trading realm of the industry. And I was like, holy cow, this sounds so interesting. I was a business major at Illinois State at the time. And so I'd been taking some econ classes, and I really liked that side of things, but it was all just kind of abstract. And so when I started learning about this whole world of ag business and ag econ, it just put the context behind the business principles that I think really clicked with me. And went back to school after that summer and changed my major to ag and never looked back. So anyway, all thanks to the Farm Progress Show.
That's
Had
awesome.
a pretty nice little career in ag for the last 20 years.
I'd never heard that story before. That's
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
awesome. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
What year was that Farm Progress show, Heather? You remember?
That would have been 2005. So literally 20 years ago. Yeah. Um, yeah, but going back to your question about Farm Progress this year, I think it was really a testament to kind of some of the challenges we're seeing in ag. It was definitely downsized from what you would have seen at a big show like that in previous years. I mean, most of these big companies, um, Bayer, Corteva, these companies that would have had huge tents, air conditioned tents, lots going on. I mean, they weren't there. They were much smaller than they were typically. And even within the booths, there really wasn't a lot to see. It was like you'd walk in, there was some signage you could read and people you could talk to, but just not the exciting, techie, interactive exhibits that we've gotten used to seeing over the last decade or so. So I think just really kind of putting the period on this recession that we're seeing in ag right now, and people really trimming back on some of those things.
Yeah, I think probably trim back on the people they send to the booths in the first place, right? I can imagine there's probably half the people working the booths that there used to be, and just the money spent on it. I got to head up a company's presence at the Farm Progress Show one year. It's sticker shock galore. It's unbelievable what that thing costs. Yeah.
So what was the actual conversation then? Like so there's not a lot of stuff to interact with. There's fewer people. What were the people that were there? Like what that you were talking to? What was of interest?
I mean, I think the equipment is really the biggest draw. I mean, for people coming to the show, it's an event that you show up to kick tires and check out equipment. So that was probably the biggest draw without any of the other things going on that you would typically see. A lot of people from the industry are there just like me to network and see people they know and reconnect and, grow whatever your business is. Finding opportunities to chat one-on-one is the best way to do that. So that seemed to be, the main drive. Definitely, some politics infiltrating the show too, some discussion about term limits and carbon pipeline. There were several groups there sort of protesting carbon pipelines, and so there's a little bit of that you see too.
Hmm.
Was there anything cool, or was it? I mean, you're not going to get auto steer every year. So was there? I mean, not was there? Did it all feel incremental, or was there anything that kind of felt like it might be a step change?
No, it all felt pretty, it was kind of disappointing. Like there was nothing exciting. Nothing that I was like, wow, I'd never seen that before. I hadn't heard about that. So yeah,
Well, you got a good day for it at least.
the weather was beautiful. Yeah. I mean, if ever there was a year to go to Farm Progress Show, this was it. It was so nice.
Yeah.
No rain, no mud.
So Heather, can you talk like what are you doing with BounceAg? Like what what are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, I started BounceAg back in January. I was with Indigo for 4 years. Kind of took a work break to have a baby after leaving Indigo, and I was doing some consulting with a large firm, which was great learning experience. Kind of a good initial lean into what it looks like to be a consultant. But I really just kind of had this pull to be able to do it on my own just because I could choose the things that I wanted to work on. And so I think what was interesting timing, so I was my position at that consulting firm was eliminated at the beginning of the year, just like a lot of people in ag experiencing that downsizing right now. And I think that was really just the nudge I needed to go out on my own. And I had several friends that were like, hey, I don't really know why you weren't doing this yourself to begin with. So like it's always great when you have friends and connections in your network to give you that confidence or that nudge that you need. My husband was one of them. He's like, hey, you've been talking about starting your own business for a long time. Like, just do it. And so that's exactly what I did. And it's been a really fun and surprising journey, honestly. So I do a number of things. So I do like general business management, sales strategy, growth strategy type of consulting work, but I also have kind of these niche expertise areas in grain trading and in carbon. And in a lot of ways, you might think all that's disconnected, but there's so much of those worlds colliding right now that it just makes a ton of sense. And companies have downsized so much that they need specialist support, but they don't need it full time, right? So it's
Sure.
been a great opportunity for me as a consultant to come in, help with individual products or projects, support them with what they need to get an initiative off the ground, and then step out of the way. And when I say it's been surprising, I've been surprised at how much of my work has been on the carbon side of
Mm.
things. I think a lot of people with the election and all of that expected a lot of this carbon buzz to dissipate. And for me, it really hasn't. It's been, really what's kept me busy and what I get the most calls about. So, working on a number of projects in the carbon space, and yeah, it's been a ton of fun. And just like I said, being able to choose the work that I'm doing and focusing on the things I really care about. A lot of the consulting work I was doing at the previous firm was more end of the supply chain focused, and I've just always been much more engaged on the agribusiness and the farm side of things. So that's really where I spend my energy is on the ag business side. And then any chance I get to talk to farmers or do educational seminars, things like that for farmers. I take it and run with it. Farmers aren't what keeps the lights on at Bounce Ag, but I think it's where the most amount of support is needed right now from a sustainability standpoint. So, like personally, I'm very passionate about helping evolve that education and understanding of that side of the market right now.
And your consulting that you're doing on the carbon side of things, is that mostly or all agriculture companies and agriculture related stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one thing I underestimated, maybe I always knew, but it's one of those things, something seems so simple in your head, you assume it's simple to other people, but just the power of translation, in that taking something that seems so complicated over here and putting it in really simple terms that people can understand and embrace. And I think in the carbon space, everybody in the industry has just been so afraid of it because there's so many technical aspects to it that live outside of ag. And so that immediately feels scary. It feels ominous. Can I trust it? is it going to last? Is this something I should really invest any time in figuring out? Because, maybe I think it's just a flash in the pan or it's politically driven or whatever the case may be. So being able to serve the industry in a way, I know the outside of ag pieces of carbon. I know the inside of ag complexities associated with it, and being able to be in the middle of that conversation and help both sides embrace one another and figure things out. I think that's a huge value that I've brought to the table. But honestly, I mean, you guys can relate to that, right? The translation piece. It's like when you're talking about futures and options and all of those things, it's like these feel like scary concepts out there, but when you break it down into simple terms, people get it and they're bought in, right? But you shy away from things you don't understand or that feel complicated initially.
So when I first so I did consulting work. I don't even know if I did consulting work. I interviewed with Indigo over like a 3 month period. Not because the guy that I ended up working for, they were like trying out different interview methods. But it got to a point where he's like, "Oh, we want to hire you," and I was like, "Well, you haven't shown me a job yet. Like, what do you?" And so he gives me this job description that was basically they wanted to hedge. They had price exposure and they needed a hedge, and I was like, "No, thank you." And I don't want a job where I'm going to sit in the corner and hedge like that. That's like tying my shoes. And so what's funny, like, it just reminded me of that because obviously I worked at Indigo for a number of years after, knew them really well. They're like, man, we thought you were so arrogant when you said that. Like, 'cause it was like, that's what it, like, that is like the easiest part of anything that I've ever done in because that's all I've ever done, right? Is the trading stuff. And so, yeah, it is funny how that works. Like, because yeah,
Team at Indigo that was looking to hire someone, that felt like a really complicated thing. They need to hire some
Sure.
serious muscle to come in and do this work because they just didn't understand,
right,
how simple of a concept that can really be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, translator, that just resonates with me so much, Heather. For a long time I've been t like kind of telling people that that's what I do for a living is kind of translate, complicated things to farmers, or I worked a lot on the scope 3 type initiatives at Indigo, and it was like you had these super smart scientists and policy guys on one side, right? And then agronomists on the other side, and then farmers and companies, and it was like everybody was speaking a completely different language. And it was awesome because like you put a generalist in the middle, to be a specialist. I certainly didn't know the science. I'm like not doing crazy derivatives like Gabe can on the future side of things. It's like this generalist thing that kind of connects the dots. So yeah,
Yeah.
hey, Rodney,
totally.
what's scope three?
So like I'm a generalist, Gabe.
I think you just got burned on your translation.
I mean I can try, but Heather, how about you tell us what scope 3 is? How about
Yeah, great question. So when a company is doing their greenhouse gas accounting, they're basically breaking that down into three scopes, scope one, two, and three. And the reason why scope three is like a buzzword in ag right now is because that's all of your supply chain emissions. So if you're a General Mills or you're a ethanol producer, right? So much of your emissions are tied to your supply chain, tactically the corn that you're originating from a farm over here and turning into Cheerios over here, that has emissions from the actual production of the corn to the truck that it's hauled in and to the processing plant that turns it into ingredients or an end product. And so a lot of companies right now are looking to reduce their scope 3 emissions and doing that through a number of methods within their supply chains. And honestly, that in itself is one of the biggest challenges. It seems like a simple goal. I want to reduce some of my emissions in my supply chain, but the supply chain is so compartmentalized and everybody's doing their own thing. And, supply chain member A over here is not talking to supply chain member Q over here. And so there's a lot of connecting of the dots that the supply chain's having to do that they've never had to do before. It's a fun problem to solve that's sort of working itself out as we speak.
Yeah, and has been working itself out over like 10 years, right? Is that about the time frame we've been kind of dabbling in this in
I
ag
mean,
anyway?
like you go back to like initial conversations years ago about identity preservation, right? Like it kind of starts there, and blockchain was a big deal, and all of those things. And I think where we're at now is we're in a situation with carbon where the asset we're trading is not like a physical kernel of corn. We don't necessarily need the physical traceability to a kernel of corn or to a field, but we need the data to translate to everywhere it's gone. And so it's really a data puzzle, a technology, a software, accounting puzzle that we're trying to solve as an industry.
Yeah. It's just past mistakes that I've seen. So you hear farmers and actually people that represent farmers saying, hey, you should get paid for your data. Your data is valuable. If people want your data, they should pay you for data. I tend to agree, right? Then you got the kind of sustainability side of the market and they're like, hey, we want to buy carbon off you. We want to buy your carbon offset, right? And again, they're speaking two different languages. Like the data is the carbon. And I talk to these farmers every day, and the farmer's like, dude, I don't know if I feel comfortable selling a thing that isn't a thing, right? Like carbon, right? You can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't touch it. It's been a lot of churn along those lines, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it may be like 13, 14, 15 years ago, every farm magazine, the cover was like big data. And everybody started talking about data and, were freaked out about data. Who owns your data? Who has access to it? What are they doing with it? Are you getting paid for it?
Yeah.
And I always say, like, carbon is the first meaningful opportunity to actually monetize your data. And turns out you don't have the data.
Yeah.
um, to do that. And I mean, I think that's been a big learning curve for early adopters, early adopter farmers in the carbon space is sort of this realization that all this data they thought they were hoarding or being calculated with who they shared it with, they don't have the right type of data or it's not organized in the right way to be
Yeah.
able to translate it into an asset that could be sold. And so, I think that's a huge learning moment for the industry to say, okay, like let's think a little bit bigger about what data we are collecting. Should I be collecting more data than I am today?
Right.
And then what am I doing with it? How am I organizing it? One thing I always say to farmers is like, anytime you're going into a field to do a thing, even if you're not to, anytime anyone is going into your field to do a thing, you should be capturing whatever that thing is. And that's data in its simplest form, right? Like what activity are you doing? What are the details associated with that? Put it in a spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be fancy, right? Like there's software that can do it, but just put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Takes you 30 seconds, in that moment. But when you're trying to go back in retrospect and do all that, it's going to take you hours or days, or it
Yeah.
feels overwhelming. So it's
Yeah.
an easy place to start.
And frankly, Heather, even if you write it down on a piece of paper, I remember Dad he finally got rid of it, but he used to have this notebook that he put in his front pocket, right, where he would write down planning dates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man, if you put it in that format, yeah, it's going to take you more time later if you need it, but at least it's there. At least you're
Yeah.
not, making it up from scratch.
And if you're not a person that loves working in a spreadsheet, like pay your nephew to do,
Yeah.
it's like they'd be happy to like take your notebook and put it into a spreadsheet for you. There's so many options. And simply not doing it doesn't feel like the right thing to do right now.
Hey, it's even fun. I just downloaded an app called Otter AI the other day. It's free, completely free. All I have to do is pick up my phone and like push one button and it'll record everything I say. It's searchable text, it's time stamped, it's dated. I'm using it instead of like the old contract logs we used to write stuff down, right? I have one. Yeah, whatever. I when I started my business, I was using these contract logs, and I was like, this is terrible. There's way too much going on, right, to be able to do this. But I needed this record, so I started this Otter AI, and it works perfect, right? Just as I'm doing something, I say, hey, Heather sold 10,000 bushel of corn at 450, right? And it automatically logs it and dates it, and
Nice.
little tools like that, I think are helpful. So on the sustainability side of things, Heather, there's a lot going on there. How much of
Do
this
you need a
is
sec, Rodney?
uh-huh.
That seemed like a painful pause right there.
Oh,
You
dude, it's
Need
it's
a
like
nap before we talk about this? You want to go take a little nap? I continue.
Rodney needs a snack, maybe a juice box.
Man, for me, it seems it's like a problem that should be solved by now. I'm so annoyed that we haven't solved this problem. So,
Yeah.
I guess my
That's
question
because
is,
that's because we aren't working on this problem. Like everybody is trying to develop solutions in isolation and
yeah,
going back to like the supply chain issue, right? Like it does no good for organization A over here to solve a problem, solve this part of a problem, sell a solution for it when there's, 30 other problems and they're all being worked on in isolation and none of them talk to each other. So you have all these abstract solutions that aren't really pulling the whole thing together.
yeah.
It's a mess.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions. If you're qualified to answer, that'd be great. But like, I think the question I get from farmers all the time is like, where's this money coming from? Where does the money? Because they won't do it without money, right? So where's the money coming from?
Yeah. Um, this is a this is a really fiery topic for me. So,
I started.
um, I read an article, oh gosh, maybe a year ago now. It was ahead of the election last year. I wrote an article in Farm Journal talking about exactly this. Like, where is the demand for these carbon assets? I'll call it carbon assets because it's an offset, it's an inset, it's some sort of environmental outcome somebody's trying to measure. Um, where's the demand for these assets coming from, and who's paying for it? And if you look at research that's been done, like farmer research, asking questions, what, have you participated in these types of programs? Why haven't you participated in these programs? The top thing that always floats up is regulatory issues, politics. There's this like feeling or belief in the industry that this is all being driven by politics. And so ahead of the election, of course, like that was a big reason to do nothing. Well, we're going to have a political change and all this is just going to go away.
Oh,
Well, it hasn't. I mean, and even being in this, like I just said, I've been surprised how busy I've been with the carbon work after the election. And the reality is, some of the money is coming from the government to support regenerative practices that in turn draw down carbon or reduce carbon emissions in some way. So there is some of that. There is government support for that. That's climate smart grants, NRCS programs that have been around forever. Those are those types of programs. They're trying to help enable farmers to make practice changes that are environmentally friendly. Great. So that's great. That's really a catalyst, but not a driver for the sustainability market. The main demand is from these corporations that are looking to make greenhouse gas reductions in their greenhouse gas accounting. And they're doing that because their board of directors wants them to, their investors want them to, they have corporate sustainability goals that they're aligned to, or they've actually set things like science-based targets where they have to actually, publish what they're doing to reduce their emissions and how far they've come in terms of meeting those goals. So there's accountability there. You can't just throw out some sort of statement, hey, we're going to reduce our emissions by X% by 2028, or, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2030 and not do anything about it. And so a lot of these companies put out these goals and now they're trying to figure out how do they actually accomplish them, right? And it turns out it's a little harder than everybody thought it would be, which is fine. We just have to work together to figure that out. But that's where that demand is coming from. Companies that either need to purchase offsets outside of their supply chain to offset some of their emissions. I mean, if you're flying an airplane, you can't reduce your emissions enough to, be carbon neutral. You have to offset that at some point. So that's where the offset market comes into play, or at least one example. Insetting is what happens within your supply chain. So those scope 3 emissions we talked about, how can you reduce emissions from your supply chain to draw down that greenhouse gas emissions number in your corporate accounting? And so that I think is something that the industry has been watching for a while and excited about, because that translates typically to a premium for your grain, for a lower emission grain, which feels a lot more comfortable, right? Like as an industry, we're used to that. It's like a specialty program, right? Whether it's non-GMO or it's white corn, you get a premium for that specialty grain. This is kind of the same thing. You're getting a premium for regenerative practices that you've used, that this company can quantify and use to their benefit. So significant opportunity there for a farmer that has access to those programs, but those programs are pretty few and far between right now. And so it's an exciting opportunity. It's just not scaled yet. Right now, the biggest, the two biggest opportunities farmers have to capitalize on regenerative practices are carbon offsets and government programs like NRCS or programs like that are in their area. Those are the most widely available. Not to say there aren't insetting programs, there absolutely are. They're just very micro in nature. And then there's 45Z. So
Yeah, I would have thrown
where worlds
45Z into
collide,
that.
right?
I would have thrown 45Z into that. You segregated it. Is that because it was an afterthought or?
It's because this 45Z is what gets me fired up.
Oh, wow,
So
right. This is about to get
Of
interesting.
course,
And it also gets me
where does the
fired.
money come from gets Heather fired up. Now 45Z. I mean,
yeah, well, no, I mean, I think 45Z is great. Don't get me wrong. I think it has tremendous opportunity for the industry eventually.
so what is 45Z? Like I think carbon offsets or assets is hopefully straightforward enough or
Yeah.
general enough term. 45Z, really specific regulation or opportunity. What is 45Z?
So what's interesting is 45Z is of all the things we just talked about, 45Z is the newest. It's also the one I feel like farmers are most familiar with in terms of like the name, right? Like if you say 45Z for, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Like there's awareness about 45Z. What it is, it's a tax credit for biofuels producers. So what it does is it pays biofuels producers for getting their CI score, below a certain level.
CI
Great.
being carbon intensity.
Carbon intensity, yes. And so when you're, doing your greenhouse gas accounting, you have to quantify the amount of emissions that, your facilities, there's emissions associated with the production of ethanol. There's emissions associated with the corn being grown, the seed being grown before it even gets to the farm to be planted. So all of those things have emissions. And so the carbon intensity is really a measure of the carbon emissions per output, whether that's a gallon of ethanol or a bushel of corn or whatever the thing is.
But
And
I'm going to call upon it. It's worth noting CI scores are across all fuel types. So we're talking about specific in ag, but one of the struggles on the carbon side is a lack of standardization and regulation. Don't know that CI scores are actually regulated, but there is absolutely industry standardization there and like a known pricing differential that's publicly available for different CI scores. So
yeah,
it's a framework to operate in that's way more comfortable if you're an ethanol producer than trying to figure out what carbon credit is going to be worth or how you're going to generate it. And so it's a I will say one of the things that's probably encouraging about it is it's finding a different framework to operate under that's, like you said, it's more familiar to folks, especially those on the energy side of the business. And so when people are asking where money's coming from, like in energy, CI score has been a source of money for, I don't know, 10, 20 years now,
yeah,
right? It's probably not 20 years, but like certainly 10. And again, like different CI scores clearly generate different premiums, either higher prices or whatever it might be. And so I think that's worth calling out. Is it's not something that suddenly got made up as part of carbon credits. It's not something that we made up for ethanol. Like it is a standardized thing in fuel.
yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, I mean, great point. Like this is not a new thing at all. And so 45Z is a tax credit for ethanol producers. And I think that's the first thing to understand that initially gets confused. It is not a tax credit for farmers. It is a tax credit for ethanol producers. And it encompasses their CI score for everything happening under the roof of that ethanol plant. So the actual carbon emissions of the production of ethanol make up the largest portion of what has to be reduced. And a lot of these ethanol plants have methods for capturing that carbon from production and moving it elsewhere. That's where the carbon pipelines come into play. So there's a number of things happening within those ethanol plants to reduce their CI score. The grain origination is a small part of that. And so the opportunity for 45Z for farmers to date is unproven. It hasn't happened yet. It's sort of this idea or this promise, a lot of players in the market are making about the future opportunity of premiums for grain to support 45Z programs. So basically, an ethanol plant has to say, okay, great, in order to get to this CI number, I need to reduce the emissions of the corn that I originate by X. And there's a model, it's called the GREET model, that's out there, is developed by the Department of Energy, that everyone will use to quantify, the emissions associated with certain production methods. Okay, so when these companies set up these programs, then a farmer can choose to participate in it, potentially get a premium. We have no idea what this actually looks like, but there's a whole lot of folks in the market right now that I think are spreading what I will call propaganda around the immediate value or like immediate actions you should take to be able to participate in these programs. The reality is, if you're not in an area with an ethanol plant, you're not delivering grain that's ending up in an ethanol plant through a local co-op or something, you're probably not going to see opportunity from this.
In 2025, right? Or in 2026.
Yeah, in the near future, right? You also really don't need to be concerned with especially paying for any kind of service that is going to calculate your CI for you right now. If and when a program pops up in your backyard that makes sense for you to participate in, that pays you a premium, they're going to calculate your CI at that point through their own tools.
Right. They're not going to want your CI score.
They are not going to care less what your CI is. And even if it's with a reputable company, that may not be the company or the tool that they're using to do that. So just like pump the brakes. You don't need to do anything. You certainly don't need to pay anything. And then going back to our data conversation, there are a lot of companies right now sort of preemptively saying, hey, share your data with us. We will calculate your CI score for you, and then you'll be first in line when these programs come about. People, that is a data grab. Like, you are getting no immediate value for sharing your data with these companies. And once they have it, what are they doing with it? Like, are you asking the right questions about that? Because if you're a known person in their supply chain that's delivering grain, or known business that's delivering grain, and you then share your data about the regen practices you're using and the field it's coming off of, and they have that data, why do they ever need to pay you a premium for that grain if they know you're already delivering there and they can quantify the outcome from your farm? So I'm not saying there's, a copious amount of bad actors in the space. I'm just saying, like, let's be smart about this. Let's wait till there's a real opportunity before you exchange any value or data, for the sake of a promise. And that's what it is right now. It feels like an empty promise that hasn't come to life. Watch it, pay attention. I hope it translates into, grain premiums for a whole lot of farmers. I truly do. It's just not here yet. So like, let's chill out a little. And also,
go ahead.
Sorry, like one more thing to just like put a bow on that topic is, if you are implementing a regenerative practice, you're reducing tillage in any way, you're planting a cover crop for first time, or you're changing the seed mix of your cover crop, you're doing something different from a nitrogen management standpoint. If you're doing any of those things, you should be looking at some sort of carbon program at the same time. If you don't immediately enroll in a carbon program, you might be missing out on the opportunity to monetize that forever. And so that's something to think about.
So you're doing a bunch of consulting work. You said getting more calls about carbon than you expected. Are those folks setting up new offset programs? Are they doing new inset programs? Is it 45Z related? Like what is for you specifically, what's the type of work you're
It's a
seeing?
combination of things. So, working with some industry organizations that are just trying to do a better job of supporting farmers in decision making and risk management around these programs that are out there. Like, uh, we talked about the education piece earlier, right? Like, how do we infuse just more knowledge into the industry, especially at the farm level, about what are offsets? What are insets? What's 45Z? What are the pros and cons of each? What are the risks associated with it? What should you be thinking about from a data standpoint when you're implementing new practices? Things like that. So there's this kind of general education piece and also helping evaluate what risks are involved with different programs and also which programs can you stack. So that government
Mm,
funding a lot of times can be stacked on top of other carbon programs. So now you're getting money for your carbon offset over here, or some premium grain program over here, and you can, add in NRCS funding on top of that, or like an RCPP for a watershed in your area, something like that. Regional Conservation Partnership Program is what that stands for. So again, like government funding to support different environmental initiatives can be stacked on top of those corporate carbon programs. So
Sometimes, not always, right? Some you got to be
sometimes,
careful with that.
yes,
Yeah, right.
yeah. So just helping folks navigate that. The other side of this work might look like, hey, I'm an inputs company or I'm a biologicals company, and our product has the ability to reduce emissions or sequester more carbon. And we want to make a carbon claim about that. We want to help farmers participate in carbon programs. How do we stand that up? What does that look like? So that's more like technical behind the scenes type of work. And then also, I'm just going out and doing a lot of education. I would say like the biggest group of folks coming to me right now from the industry are ag lenders and farm managers that are like, hey, we don't know anything about this space. And the farmers we work with are asking about this, landowners are asking about this, and we want to be able to answer their questions and sound smart. And so just supporting them and understanding the full scope of all the things we've been talking about.
Yeah, super cool. I want to keep you fired up about 45Z because I'm also passionate about this. So I think the thing that gets missed on the 45Z deal is there's like the carbon intensity of the plant itself, right? Plus the carbon intensity of the feedstocks that they're buying. So in ethanol, it's corn, right? Um, so what we've seen so far, the carbon pipeline is it's pretty easy. It's pretty like if I pay money, if I'm an ethanol plant, I pay money to put in this pipeline or do whatever I need to do to bury this carbon. There's a calculation out there that says every what are we burying? Pound, grams, kilograms,
tons, tons.
ton,
Yeah,
every ton of carbon you bury, you essentially get this kind of straight line tax deduction, which I think makes sense and is super clear. And the ethanol plant can control that, right? They can decide what they do, what they don't do. The second you add the farmer side of things, you like make that chain so long, right? So as you alluded to earlier, a lot of times that grain comes through a co-op or something on the way to the ethanol plant. Certainly, if I'm an ethanol plant working with farmers, I'm not an agronomist, right? I can't like verify the practices that they're telling me to do. And so I think, on the feedstocks piece in particular, part of the reason we still have so much anxiety around this is one, I don't think the rules are like totally set in stone on the feedstock side.
yeah.
And then two, I think they just need to figure out how to work together, right? They're just two disparate parts of the supply
Mhm.
chain.
And how much of the origination is important for them hitting that overall goal? Can they do it without
Without
that
it.
piece? Um,
I mean, I still remember, Heather, you touched earlier on the back in the aughts, like the big ethanol subsidies that came through then, and everybody's like, oh, these are like, and it was supposed to be a farmer subsidy, right? Like we're going to give the subsidy to the ethanol plant and it'll go to the farmer. Absolutely did not happen, right?
yeah.
Certainly at time, but I mean, origination ultimately is a different problem than how to send through the subsidy. It factored in terms of, well, okay, great, we've got more to give here, but I think very rare was the time where it was like a straight line. Yeah, we've got that subsidy, and we're like, this is our subsidy program, so you're going to get a 10-cent premium because of whatever. And it,
That's where this all gets super weird. So, like, if I'm a farmer in central Iowa and ethanol plants went up in 2005 or whatever it was,
Right.
right?
So
Uh,
now there's 5 left. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. They definitely did not get a premium. Nobody said, hey, 10 cents because I'm getting this credit. But didn't they get like better basis in that area? I mean, didn't it result in a
So
better
so
margin?
look, ethanol plants tend to drive better basis in general because of the way they run their origination process, right? Like and so they pay for different things. I think ultimately, so your Iowa example, sure, right? Like, well, I say sure because they're competing against other ethanol plants, and so they're all competing that same way. But if you're the only ethanol plant, or there's two of you, and you're mostly competing against other more whatever non-ethanol demand, like it's still a supply demand question. If I don't have to pay you more than I'm paying you today, why in the world would I pay you more?
That's right.
Right?
So
And so
yeah, I
so
agree. So I
so
think my
what
question
happened?
is, yeah,
What
yeah, go ahead.
what that turned into the macro was that's the reason 40 went up because those subsidies, right, caused a bubble of ethanol plant manufacture because they didn't have to put the subsidies back down into the farm. And so that led to a gold rush on the ethanol side, which is why a number of the ethanol plants went down, right? And it is what it is now.
But I would call that a demand-driven policy. Right? They implemented a policy to drive demand for corn, right?
I would say they implemented a policy to drive demand for ethanol.
Ethanol.
For ethanol, which in turn drove demand for corn. I mean, it was corn
Yeah, it
growers
totally
that was,
changed the formula, right? Yeah, I agree,
yeah,
right? Well,
yeah,
but it wasn't obviously there's supply chain impacts, but this is the problem. Like people pay what you pay them to do.
yeah.
So 45Z, you're getting paid to generate ethanol with such and such a CI score. Like that's what you're getting paid to do. You have, as Heather hit on, you have multiple tools to address that to get to that point. And so maybe some of it goes to the farm, but it is not a farmer subsidy,
Correct.
as you've all said. It is not a demand driven policy to create more corn, like or more demand for corn. Will it ultimately? Probably, because you'll probably get more ethanol production than you would have otherwise. There'll be more demand for the things that go into generating ethanol, but it starts to really diffuse, right? It's not a straight line by any stretch. And
Well, if
so
you're looking at reducing your carbon intensity, the path of most resistance is the direct to farm path for that.
That's right.
Like that is the hardest problem to solve. And so if you're an ethanol plant, you're looking at every other method that's going to make a bigger impact with less effort first. And then solving for that later. Maybe by the time that gets solved for, the tax credit's gone. I mean, and that's the some of the challenge with a lot of these carbon programs that have popped up. Many of them were funded not by corporate money, like we talked about earlier, but by climate smart grants. And
Right.
so it's really important to understand like whatever program you're choosing to participate in, where is the money coming from? Is it coming from a corporate initiative? Is it coming from demand on that side of the house? Or is it being subsidized by the government? Because that's not going to last. And then what? So yeah, you got a paycheck for a couple of years from a program, but now that's gone. And we're actually seeing that right now with some really strong programs that were out there, but they lost their climate smart grant and now they're not paying farmers. And so it kind of leaves you stranded and wondering, okay, what can I do now? Can I do anything now? Um,
Yeah, so I kind of have two buckets in my head for these. And one is policy driven stuff. So 45Z, there's like a program out there that, ensures that the money, if I'm in this program, the money flows down to me. I think, some of those climate smart things would be in that. Then there's a voluntary program, which is, hey, Nestle just wants to lower the carbon intensity of the corn that they're, or whatever product they're using. Um, how much of the market does that make up, Heather? Is that a growing thing, a shrinking thing, or what's your thoughts?
I think it's been pretty static, and I say static because of how complex it's been to grow those programs. And this is part of the reason, I'm working with some industry organizations on this because we've been thinking, I mean, you've probably done this, Rodney. Like you walk on a farm and like the moment like any mention of sustainability comes up, like farmers just cringe, like it feels like it has this, that word, it pushes this emotion of like something's being pushed on me, like the government's forcing me to do something, somebody's in my business, like it's just, it doesn't feel good. It feels like something you have to react to rather than something you should embrace.
Yeah.
And I think carbon is a really interesting shift in that because it's really an emerging market now, and that's how we should be thinking about it. We should be thinking about it as an emerging market, just like a non-GMO market or an organic market or a white corn market or like any number of specialty markets that have evolved. That's how we should be thinking about it because the demand is there for carbon offsets globally. It is there, whether from voluntary markets like the US or international governments that are requiring it. And so the market's there, but are we going to be in a position to provide the supply that they need or embrace the market, help grow the market? And so a lot of these organizations in ag are now changing their tune and saying, yeah, like we want to be the place that companies go to when they're looking for carbon offsets, especially nature-based solutions. We'd rather that money come to ag than forestry, or direct carbon capture, some other place where you can buy carbon. So we've got to turn the corner there and help the market start to embrace that and build that supply. And only then will it grow. Because right now we're really hard to do business with.
Man, for what it's worth, step one, I think here is not calling it sustainability. I like you've used the word asset a few times, and I use that all the time, right? You farmer, you have an asset. That's different than sustainability. I was just at a guy's place the other day, and I mentioned sustainability, and he got fired up just like a lot of farmers do. I wasn't trying to talk him into anything, but he pointed right to the sign on the wall, and it said like his farm established 1848, right? And he's like, that's sustainability. Like carbon is not sustainability. It's like, cool, right. If we could shift the language, at least on the farmer side, I think too, hey, you have this asset that you can sell. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. I tell farmers all the time, like, you don't even have to believe in climate change.
You don't? I agree. I totally agree.
Like, I'm not here to convince you of anything.
That's not a conversation we're having. Yeah.
No, it's
Exactly.
like that you have an asset that you can sell. Do you want to sell that? Like,
That's
you do
right.
not have to,
Oh, were
uh,
you doing something with all that carbon? I didn't realize.
Yeah. And then, the way I think about these practice changes, so lots there, especially on the carbon side of things, but I think I don't, if I'm a farmer and I'm considering making a practice change, let's say for 45Z, right? I think part of the calculation should be, hey, if I make this practice change, I'm gonna have this additional asset that I didn't have before, right? What do I think that asset might be worth? Gabe can help us figure out the optionality, the option values, all those things. But I think that's the right way to think about it, rather than what I see all the time is like, oh, you need to plant a cover crop because it's so good for the planet. And it's like, okay, but if it's not good for my farm,
Why
right?
would you do it?
Why
Yeah.
would I do it? I can't do it, right?
yeah.
And
The
again,
program shouldn't drive the practice.
that's right.
Like, you should
That-
be doing the practice because it makes sense for your farm, but also appreciate that that could be earning you revenue beyond the corn or the soybeans or the wheat, right?
Agree. Yeah. And then the other thing I worry about is when you say, hey, it's, good for the planet if you do cover crop or whatever it is, right? It just feels like you're also saying what I'm currently doing is not good for the planet. And I challenge anybody on any day to go out to a farm in the Midwest and be like, this is a cesspool of terribleness, right? Like it's just not the case. It's the greenest, it's like beautiful.
Yeah.
Rant. I'm done with that rant. I'm sorry.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah, the program should not drive the practice for sure. And also, like, I'll reiterate it, like, based on the point you just made. You said if you're doing a practice because of 45Z, again, don't do a practice because of 45Z. Also, if 45Z is like the thing that's like pushing you, you've been thinking about doing a practice and you're like, well, this seems like a good opportunity. If there's not an immediate 45Z premium being paid to you for that practice, go find another program that will pay you for that practice. When and if a 45Z program comes up, just make sure whatever program you're signing up for allows you out of that contract so you can switch to the other one. And there are several of those out there that you can participate in. So there's flexibility there. Just like don't do nothing.
Yeah.
It's the take home.
Yeah, that's good.
Ronnie, should we pull up our markets?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Uh, I honestly I haven't looked at corn or cattle prices until now, uh, for about 10 days. So Heather, I feel like I'll give the quickest cliff notes I can on this. So unsurprising, we're looking at these corn futures, right? We just look at it and check in, see what's going on there. But the other thing we're looking at is diesel live cattle, because that market's been screaming higher and higher and higher. Um, Rodney and I don't know if we have a bet on. I wouldn't say that, but like, so I drew a line in the sand. I was like, my gut says September is when this is going to turn, for a number of reasons. And to be clear, I've been wrong about it turning every day. Um, so, um, and I don't have a position on. So that tells you my conviction in this prediction. But I would say it's not wholly uninformed. All right, so pull up corn first, Rodney. And I mean, and looking where it is, I'm curious, kind of what the.
So just you're pulling it up or
I'm pulling it up right now.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
should be right there. Yeah, can you see it?
Yep, we got her loud and clear.
So this is the weekly chart. Today up 3/4, but almost 420. So drifting around here. I know we were close to where loan payments were going to be, and now we've crept a little bit up. How do you guys feel?
So I think I called this, Gabe, that the market would cause the most amount of pain possible. So
Yeah,
that low dip there down by 390. That was the day we got the latest WASD report out of the USDA, 188.8 yield, which was off the charts. Then they decided to add in 250,000 acres of corn, which was like kind of unheard of for a report like that.
yeah,
And what was great about that day is the market essentially did nothing. It was like, yeah, we know, right? And it bottomed out there. And since then, we've kind of trended up. Uh, we've talked about on the podcast. The bad thing here is most guys in my area, if you're taking 85% crop insurance and have like a trend line yield happening, your payment from crop insurance is going to kick in around $4 equivalent futures. So what happens is if the market was going to go lower than 390 and we, finish that October average, say at like 360, most people would just at face value say that sounds terrible. Well, actually, a lot of farmers would have gotten a 40 cent per bushel payment on that gap, right? And then any sales they had or, any later opportunity they benefit from. Instead, what the market's chosen to do is kind of settle into this sweet spot where I don't get a government payment, crop insurance payment, and I also don't really make any money, in the traditional way. So, um, yeah, that's kind of been the reaction. I'll tell you, I think that being said, I think most people are happy to, have some confidence that we've maybe found a low on corn here and, have some opportunities. The other thing I'd say that's not on this chart, but gigantic carries in the corn market. So if you have storage space, last I looked, East July was trading like 35 cents. You tack a 30 or 40 cent basis under that. A farmer that has storage can pick up, 65 or 70 cents if he can hold it till July.
I was listening to a market outlook from a company that I will not name at the Farm Progress Show last week, and he was recommending farmers sell cash for fall.
Yeah.
feels like a bad recommendation if you've got storage.
Well, I'm sure it was for guys that didn't have storage, right? I mean, God, I would hope so. Yeah.
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 But like, what's the conversation? I mean, yeah. okay, if you sold nothing and you have no choice, right? Like maybe do some of
Sure.
that. But it was just like a blanket recommendation, like you should just be selling it. And so the old, you know, farmer grain trading mentor in me was thinking like, what's the bigger conversation here around like a solid diversification strategy for your corn well in advance so that you're not in this situation, right? Where this is your first sale of the year. Was the high for December, did we hit that back in like February?
We hit it back in May of last year.
Okay.
So I've got queued up here because exactly that point. You remember Nate Brovitz, right? So Heather, I don't know if you knew this, but like Nate's actually one of the most disciplined grain marketers I know. Like as
Okay.
a when he puts his farmer hat on, so he consistently starts selling. He started selling next year's crop. I mean, it was probably like what 3 or 4 months ago. And he doesn't, but he pieces into it. And as he put it, well, I just got used to being stupid. But like, uh, but obviously it's not, right? It's a super disciplined approach and is about making transactions that are profitable for the business and recognizing that he's not trying to hit the highest price.
Yeah.
I've got queued up here to look at 20. But yeah, that you're right. That is the if you're feeling bad right now, like yes, you need to deal with what's happening right now. And so it sounds like Rodney's saying, lock in the futures, but if you've got storage, look to roll delivery out to July. Is that
I mean, that's so lots of logistics and money concerns in between there, but
yeah?
for sure. Hey, on the high of December corn, so the contract high is actually around 580, essentially way back on the
Or
day
is
that
it
it came on the board, right? So this
okay?
is
So
2.5.
so the day it was listed, if you were
Yeah,
if you were that
exactly.
aggressive, so
And then
that must have been like 2023, 2022.
let's see.
I forget how early they list them now.
Yeah, that would have been so the high was listed on April 28th of 2022.
Okay, so if you were prescient enough to sell 3 years in advance, you're good to go. Three and a
That
half
feels
years.
that feels aggressive for
It does
most.
feel a little aggressive. It's a bold move.
Feels aggressive. Hopefully they
But
were
like,
focused.
let's think about that. Between last year's harvest and now, what
Yes.
was the high?
Yeah. So between
Yeah.
last year's harvest and now the high was in February. Looks like
Okay,
it was like four
got it.
479 and a half. Yeah,
479 and a half.
that's right. Yeah.
So
Now, the thing that people have been saying about this corn market, so February crop insurance is guarantee is calculated in the month of February. So that went on when that happened. The February average came in at 470. We finished February lower, and the thought process back then was, hey, we've never not retested that crop insurance level, that spring crop insurance level. So everybody in the back of their mind had this like, hey, statistically, we should get back to 470, right? We were coming off of, $5 old crop corn at the time, right? So like guys are like, oh, I really want $5. We're at like 450, right? Or 455. But man, I think if I could get back to 470, which I'm super confident we will, this is Rodney back in February talking, or March, super confident we will because all these reasons. And then we just never got there. And we did a slow bleed out lower, which is actually the most painful way to move. That slow bleed is just awful. You miss this stuff, Heather, on a day-to-day basis? You miss having these conversations?
I do. There's just like a nerdy grain trader part of me that I can't, it won't die. It's just there
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
and there's always something different, right? Like there's always something new to talk about. Almost always something new to talk about in the market.
I think it's like it's easy to be excited about it when you don't have to do it for your income. So, there's some of that. Uh,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The other thing I would say is August has been really rough on this corn crop, at least in, northern Illinois, I believe Iowa as well. We haven't had much rain and I'd say we haven't finished out the crop the way that everybody had hoped. Um, Harvest is going to start here in my neck of the woods in a couple weeks. Heather, I'd imagine they're going down by you by now,
yeah.
right? Or just starting to.
We were
Uh,
actually up at the farm last weekend, and on our drive home, we saw a bunch of corn coming out and some beans starting too. So,
Got it. Yeah. So I
happening.
think we'll start to hear those early yield reports and, have some more information for the market here.
So we've pulled up 2026 just to put it out there, right? So Rodney, are you guys working orders to sell at 475
We have locked in some 426 for sure. Yeah.
for 2026?
Yeah.
You just said 426. What
I'm
price
sorry.
have you sold in?
For 2026, we've locked in some.
Ah, okay, got it.
Yeah, so we're mostly doing accumulators right now, Gabe.
Okay.
We've got some $5, little over $5 locked in, and then most recently we did another run at like 480, right? For getting those on. When I say locked in, that's the problem with accumulators. They're not locked in.
They're not
That's
actually locked in, yeah. But you're accumulating sales at $5.
Yeah, we're pricing a few bushels every day, and the thing is, like, even it sounds like cost of production is probably going up again next year, Gabe. Despite all this, I mean, I can't guarantee that I'm going to make money at 480 or $5. So we're like patiently selling into this, and we'll see. Hopefully, we have better opportunities down the road.
And then let me pull up the old Dees 2025 cattle. So we'll see where things are at.
We've got Heather. Do you have him on like half a screen? Are you hard to, is it hard to see the chart? Or
Yeah, it's
I'm
it's
not okay. Is it better
yes,
now?
yeah, full screen? No.
no,
No.
like your face is taking up half the screen.
My face that hurts.
There we go.
There you
There we
go.
go.
Okay. You
Yeah.
guys like that better. All right.
This chart was easy
Um,
to see when it was
I
small.
get it. No, I get it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Feelings don't hurt. So, all right. I mean, this is the weekly cattle chart. So back here, Heather, is when we start talking about it might top out. So this is Gabe being wrong for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And I would say,
Only,
what's
I
that,
love
Ronnie?
only since the reincarnation of the podcast is he
That's
been.
right.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Hey,
Uh,
I did an article caught my eye the other day, Gabe. It was I don't know if this is new information, but there are more job seekers than jobs available right now. And that lines up with your
yeah.
doomsday theory that you got. Yeah.
So all right. So Heather, what I said is what I think is going to happen is I think people haven't really digested how many people took the buyout packages from the government stuff. And so those people that took those packages have been living just fine, like through now. I think it's now when the income stops. And so, they had great summers, cookouts, whatever. And now they're out looking for work. And like September's like the big hiring month. But I think what they're going to find is there's not a ton of jobs out there. And so that's what Rodney's and so I think and so what we know is when unemployment ticks up, right, purchasing high cost protein like a beef goes down and from there. I mean, we've seen obviously some rattling around some of the unemployment numbers and macro stuff maybe seems like it's settling down a little. I mean, obviously the overall market's been doing well, but yeah. So what I said is my fear is that come September, kind of we're going to start to see some really hard drops across a number of markets because of this. That being said, I think if we make it through this winter, through December, and that doesn't happen, it's probably kind of barring other new externalities, it's steady as she goes. So obviously
What's the supply side of the beef market look like right now? Because I
so
mean, that's
yeah, I mean the story is that it's still constrained, right? But it's but I my my limited understanding of that conversation is a little foggy, just because people keep comparing herd sizes, like, and they go, oh, like there's not, but they don't talk about actual pounds, and so the animal, and this was another insight that Nate gave us, is that just the animals carry, they're able to bulk them up a lot more than they used to. So similar to yield on other crops, right? The yield on cattle has gone up, so it's probably still undersupplied, but not as drastic as people think. The other thing that Nate shared with us, he runs a cow calf operation, small, a modest cow calf operation, but when he talked to other folks, other peers in that space, is talks about the fear that they have. So they're been operators for a long time, but it's very much a similar feeling from his perspective as what he felt like as a row crop farmer in 07, 08. And so that tells you, like, there's a lot of anxiety, like, again, like you said, there's this excitement because this income isn't driving our livelihoods. And so you look at it and go, God, they must be thrilled, right? They're buying new trucks, they're whatever. And but it's not, right? It's very much the stress of like, good God, I don't understand why we're this high. How high is it going to go? Am I going to be the idiot that sold at 235 and it goes to 270 or something? And like just it all feels very uncomfortable and not built on fundamentals. And so that supply story, again, not being super well informed on it, but my gut has a little bit of it feels like a backfill in terms of trying to um, justify it as opposed to it actually being a fundamental story, right? It's like looking for reasons as opposed to being the reason, if that makes sense.
Heather,
Yeah,
when was the last time you ate steak for dinner? Like a steak?
yesterday.
Yeah, see, they're consumer demand off the charts. It cannot be stopped.
But we get it from the farm, so
Sure.
like I'm not buying it at the grocery store, so that
Sure.
feels different,
Yeah, right.
My brother-in-law raises beef, so different pain felt there versus paying for it at the store. I also wonder too, I mean, I was Beth Ford from Land O'Lakes put out an article a couple weeks ago just talking about kind of the crisis in farm profitability right now. And I think the stat was something like 15% of farms will be profitable this year.
Yeah,
And, so part of me wonders too, like there's a lot of grain farmers that have a cattle hobby.
yeah,
And, so how much of the pain that they're feeling on the grain side of the things is impacting their ability to, go in heavier on the livestock side of things when that feels like more of a gamble year to year,
yeah,
typically. So I wonder about that too.
yeah. That's right.
Yeah, again, Nate shared with us like he is seeing a lot of folks who either didn't have operations or had really small ones like lever up to get into this side of things, and that's another piece of what makes it feel bubbly.
Mhm.
But again, it may not be, right. Like the rationalization may be real and the demand is consistent. I mean, even if it stopped, even if the demand didn't grow from here, like yeah, I mean, these prices are like almost 2x what normal prices,
Yeah,
or certainly they are 2x normal
yeah.
prices.
I was gonna say that might be low. Yeah.
So
So Heather, on the sustainability side, so Bounce Ag, right? In closing, Bounce Ag.
Heather loves sustainability. Like she's all sustainability all the time. So
No, no, no. But so yeah, we should
on
do.
the carbon asset side,
But on the sustainability side of things, if you would talk to us about how you want how you if you could sit down with a farmer, maybe a grain company or an industry, player, and maybe even some of these people on the voluntary side of the market, and I'll add government policy into this. Like, what would you tell each of these folks as it relates to this stuff?
Well, I would tell them they're all talking over each other right now as a starting point. So, like, we've got to start speaking the same language or, putting the right folks at the table that can help translate, I think, is a starting point. The other thing I would say, like, to the ag side of that table is what I mentioned earlier. Like, we've got to quit treating this like, it's an ugly stepchild and treating it like it's an emerging market and an opportunity to make money because it absolutely is. These things aren't like a get rich quick scheme, but when 15% of farmers are going to be profitable this year, like we should be looking at every avenue at our disposal to improve profitability for the farm, right? And so there's a lot of things at play to support farmers building a new revenue stream from carbon. A lot of different programs, a lot of different government subsidies to support on top of those programs, and a lot of farmers considering practice changes because agronomically it makes sense, right? So, like, when all those things come together, why not? Like, let's at least roll up our sleeves and talk about it. I think one of the reasons that I felt really strongly this pull to start my own company, and I felt this when I was at Indigo, actually. I did a lot of industry affairs while I was at Indigo, working with industry organizations to just help improve Indigo's reputation, help them understand like what the heck is it that Indigo is trying to do. and sitting down with these companies that I'd worked with or organizations that I'd worked with for a long time prior to Indigo, just realizing the gap in understanding of this space, and that anyone that was in the space trying to talk to them about it or help them with it was also selling a program.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe someone that's trying to sell you something. And I think that's a lot of my issue with a lot of these players that have popped up around 45Z. Yeah, they're putting out content constantly about, to hype up 45Z because they're trying to sell you something, right? Or take your data, which is valuable. And so, I think just ensuring that when you're having those conversations, if you're really trying to build solutions, you've got someone with a neutral mindset and expertise across the aisles of all of this that can help support those conversations. And as an industry, we've got to quit building solutions in isolation. The solution is not another marketplace. Rodney, you'll love this. I mean, the amount of conversations I've been a part of in the last year where a company or a group of people or even a group of farmers has set up a call with me and they're like, okay, hear me out. We're going to set up a marketplace where farmers can list their grain and their carbon and sell it.
Yeah.
And buyers can come in and,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is brilliant. I wish someone had.
I mean, it turns out you can raise like $2 billion if you come up with an idea like that.
Yeah, and I mean it's like that you're talking to them and I'm like, yes, I absolutely I love this idea. I am bought into this idea. How much money do you have to support it? Because I'm pretty sure Indigo spent billions of investor dollars to try to do exactly this, and like it didn't happen. So like, company ABC over here with a $500,000 government grant to support regen ag is not going to do that and be
Right.
successful. But what can you do with that money if you pull it with this company over here and this company over here?
Yeah.
So it's really about collaboration and just being smarter about the solutions we're bringing to the table.
Yeah. Cool. Appreciate that. I know we focused a lot on sustainability here today for sure, Heather. Not surprising that you spent a lot of time there. I would say to the audience, Heather is a total pro in go-to-market strategies as well. If Clearview Commodities was ever doing a big go-to-market thing, Heather'd be my first call, absolutely. And I'd encourage other people to do the same. Got to
Thanks.
see it in action at Indigo.
Appreciate that.
And the market stuff. Don't forget that either. The commodity markets, that is, not
Yeah.
just marketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swiss
So
Army.
Heather, on the way out, anything else you want to plug? Anything you want to say in closing?
Are we not going to talk about Gabe's new job? Is that a thing we're not talking about today? I mean,
I mean, we can talk about it. I'm running data and tech for I'm now on the farming side. Like
There we go.
so
Production.
I'm data and tech for greenhouse. It's called Little Leaf Farms, and we grow lettuce. I you know yeah, I'm not sure. So what do we talk about? Uh, that's what we do. So grow lettuce. They have um, they're profitable, which is they're the only ones that are profitable growing lettuce in greenhouses in the U.S. Um, and they're expanding. So they've got operations in Mass and Pennsylvania. They're building out in Tennessee, and they will be building out more. And so really they're at that point where they're moving from into being a larger operation. And so trying to figure out how do we use tech and the data we have to get more leverage out of the people we have. And, use it to help make decisions and get more clarity on things. So it's pretty exciting just because they don't have a ton of tech debt. Like I'm not walking into like a mature tech side of an organization. And so tons of opportunity for blocking and tackling work to make people more efficient, but also some really exciting stuff on the data science side, like that will that won't start today, but will start imminently.
okay.
Yeah, that's it. So building a really small team on that, and then we'll end up using contractors and vendors to help fill in some gaps. But it'll be an opportunity to work with other data scientists and quant folks that I have in the past, especially as we get to some of the more sophisticated stuff. But yeah, I'm excited about it. The people there, really care about their work. Like that's always like a nice thing, and these days more important to me to find is like the passion and excitement, like genuine excitement around doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a very healthy environment to be around. So excited about that. Plus the lettuce. I get free lettuce.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you find yourself eating more lettuce now?
No.
No.
So Heather, so I'm on GLP meds. So my appetite looks more like a normal person now, as opposed to what it normally looks like. But I'd rather eat a cookie than lettuce, given like the smaller rather me. Down 60 pounds now
Oh,
as of this week. So
Yeah. And really, we're both just biding our time until some gigantic sponsor comes in and sponsors Drift and Return. And
yeah, as soon as that happens, right, Rodney and
yeah, we'll do a daily podcast at that point, I think.
yeah, we'll just live stream like 2 hours a day.
That's right.
So
well, so kind of the last minute here, I have a funny story about lettuce. So, well, it's not exactly about lettuce. So my husband works in ag, and he works in chemical distribution. So he sells, all the basic manufacturer stuff to ag retail, and occasionally ag retailers will take him out to visit with a large farmer that's doing something new. And one day he just absolutely got his butt chewed because he called a farmer a grower. And the farmer said, I'm not a grower. Growers grow lettuce. And he was just
Mm.
pissed that he'd been referred to as a grower. And anyway, the lettuce sparked my memory about this. And then my mind went to Rodney, how much time did you and I spend in meetings and
Yeah.
so with marketing trying to figure out like what do we call farmers? Do we call them farmers? Do we call them producers? Do we call them growers? I mean, there were
Yeah.
conversations had about like what is the right or most comfortable term that the industry wants to be referred to in like a marketing material or on a website or something like that. So anyway, if there's any farmers that have hung with us this long on Drift and Return, like maybe put in the comments like what's your preferred term? Is it farmer? Is it producer?
Yeah.
Farmers?
What did we land on? Do you remember?
I think farmers.
so
Uh,
when I got to Cargill, they had just switched to producer because like I don't know if like I think somebody was out in the field and they referred to somebody as a farmer as a farmer, and they similar reaction to the lettuce thing. They go, I'm not a pig farmer, like I'm a producer, right? And so it turns out it's probably regional, if not specific to the
yeah.
individual.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think
Some
this is good.
farmers don't like producer. I've heard that directly from
but I've
farmers.
heard that too.
That
Yeah,
it's like the connotation is like a really, really big corporate farm.
industrial. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing we should do. So give us your comments, the video, or we do have an email address. I've been frantically looking for it. We've never gotten an email to this address yet, by the way.
Well, Rodney also hasn't ever checked the emails. We don't really.
But I'm looking at it right now.
All right.
Drift and return at clearviewcommodities.com. That's and is spelled out. Or you can call or text me and let me know. If you're a farmer, what do you want to be called? All right. Thanks, Heather. It's good to see you again.
Good to
Thanks
see you
for
again, Heather. See ya.
have a good one, guys.